All right, guys, so we've been working on solving multi-step equations all week long. So today we're going to throw a wrench in that formula because what we're going to do is we're going to end up with having a variable on both sides of the equal sign. Okay, so the Common Core standard we're going to be working on is solving equations with variables on both sides. We're not going to be looking at no solution or infinitely many yet. We'll do that next week, but we're going to focus on solving multi-step equations. Okay? So there's more to this, but today we're just going to introduce multi-step equations with variables on both sides. Make sure you copy down your objective and the name of this video on the top of your notes page. And when you're ready, we will continue to the next slide. Okay, great. I hope you got that all copied down. So I want you to copy down my key idea here. Solving equations with variables on both sides. In order to solve equations with variables on both sides, you're going to collect the variable terms on one side and the constant terms on the other side. So what we're going to do is we're going to be moving things this way and moving things that way. Okay, go ahead and push pause, copy down this main idea, and when you're ready, hit play, and we will continue to the next slide. Okay, so I just want you to watch this first time, okay? And if you have a eraser or your school ID or anything that you can bring out to cover one side or the other, I want you to go ahead and do that because I'm going to be hiding part of the screen so that we can only focus on one side or the other eventually. So just watch, and when we're done with this one, I want you to copy down both 1 and 2. But for now, just want you to watch. So I'm going to go ahead and hide my screen here. So I'm only going to reveal half of my problem. This half. Okay. I'm still going to go ahead and draw my line down here because I want this nice clean line here, which tells me separates one side from the other. I also have this nice little reveal tool so that I can hide that or expose it as I'd like. Okay. So I'm going to focus on this side here. First thing I want to do is I want to look for like terms. If I have like terms, then I can combine them. So I'm going to say on this side I have a negative 2x and a 4x. And these are like terms, so I can just go ahead and combine them. So negative 2x and a negative 4x, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to do my column method. Plus and minus, this is a negative 2 and this is a negative 4. They're both on the negative side, therefore I add them and they become negatives. And then my x's tag along. So I'm going to end up with a negative 6x on this side. Now I'm going to reveal the other side. Bring my equal sign down. So now I have a 6 and a negative 4x. Do I have any terms that I can combine on this side? I don't, right? So I'm going to go ahead and keep revealing here. And I'm just going to bring this whole side down. So my new equation says negative 6x is equal to 6 minus 4x. All right, so here's what I want you to do. You're going to move 1 to the other side. And in this case, I don't care which one you're moving. I just want them both on one side. And if it means that you're going to do less work by moving just the 4, we're just going to move the 4x. Okay. So I want you to remember that first you're doing the inverse operation. And the inverse operation of a negative 4x is to add 4x. And this time I'm moving the one that is attached to the variable because I want all my variables on one side. So I'm going to go ahead and add 4x to this side. This becomes 0, right? So I'm going to bring down what I'm left with, 6. And I have a positive and a negative. And this time I have a positive and a negative. So if I take my eraser and I erase part of this, I can rewrite it. Oops. I can rewrite this and say I have a -6 and a +4, right? So my 4 is smaller. I'm going to go ahead and subtract 4 from my -6, or my 6, and that gives me an answer of 2, which is on the negative side. So I end up with a -2x. I'm going to go ahead and erase this from here. Whoopsie. So that I can continue on down vertically. And remember, you always want to solve your mathematical equations like this vertically. That means downhill. You're going down the mountain, okay, as we solve these problems. Keep it in line with your straight line so that everything lines up, and it makes solving so much easier. So I want to go ahead and look at what I have to do next. I have to do the inverse operation again. I'm looking for the inverse again. And the inverse of multiplication is division. So I'm going to take my coefficient, that's the number that's in front of the variable, and I'm going to divide both sides by that number. And since it's a negative, I want to make sure that I divide both sides by this negative. A lot of you guys are not writing the step down. I'm telling you, it would be so beneficial for you if you got in the habit of writing this step down. When you skip steps, you're going to make mistakes. You're not going to remember that it's a positive divided by a negative. You'll get your sign wrong and inevitably get your answer wrong. So -2 divided by -2 gives me a 1. 1 is shy, so I'm just going to bring down my x. I have a positive divided by a negative. So remember your triangle. I have a positive divided by a negative. Leaves me a negative answer, right? Put those back up there. So my answer is going to be -3. Wasn't that hard, right? And it doesn't matter which one you move. For me, my desire for you is to make it as simple as possible. Sometimes you're going to have to end up dividing by a negative, but that's easier than having to move your 6 and then your 6x this way and your 6 that way. That's just an extra step in there. All right, so now I want you to go ahead and push pause and copy this problem down. When you're ready, push play, and we'll continue with problem number 2. And number 2, you're going to work with me. So if you want to go ahead and copy that problem down in advance, then when it comes time to working on it, we can have it together. Push play, pause, and then when you're ready, push play. And we'll continue. Okay, so hopefully you're back, and we're going to look at this problem here. And again, I'm just going to look at half of it at a time. I'm going to look at this half, and I see that I do not have like terms. So I'm going to go ahead and reveal the other half. And on this half, I don't have like terms either. So that means that I'm just going to display the whole thing. I want to look at half of it at a time. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put my line, oopsie, down the center here. I don't know what I did. Okay, and I'm going to look at what I have. I want everything on one side. So I'm going to look at this. This is 1v, right? 1 is hiding. I'm going to add him here. 1v, oh my gosh, that was a terrible 1. Let's go ahead and do that again. 1v, and this is -2v. And my neighbor next door likes to say that teenagers are lazy and they just want to do the easiest things first. So if you're looking at 1v and -2v, which one is the bigger number? Truthfully, using that negative. If you're looking at a number line, -2v is going to come first. That means it's smaller than 1v. So we're going to go ahead and move this -2v first. By using my inverse operation, right? Inverse first. I'm going to say the opposite of -2v is +2v. I'm going to do one step at a time. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to add 2v over on this side. This becomes 0, right? 12 I didn't touch, so I'm going to bring down my 12. 1v plus 2v gives me 3v. I did not touch this -3, so I'm going to bring down my -3. Now I'm super close to having my variables on one side and my variable by itself on one side. So I'm going to look at this side here. And again, I want to move the one that is not attached to the variable this time. So I'm going to look for my inverse operation. This is a positive 12. So I'm going to subtract 12 on both sides. Positive 12 minus 12 gives me a 0. That's our goal. That's why we use the inverse operation. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to bring down what I have left, which is this positive 3v. And I'm going to look at these two numbers. If I'm doing my column method, this is a negative 3. This is a negative 12. They're both negative. I will add them together, and that's going to give me a 15, which is on the negative side, so my answer becomes negative 15. This one includes a third inverse operation. So now I'm going to have to look at what this is telling me. This says 3 times v. So the inverse operation of multiplication is division. So I'm going to go ahead and put a division bar underneath both of these and divide them by the coefficient of my variable. That's the number in front of the letter. And I'm going to divide both sides by 3. This becomes 1. 1 is shy, so we're going to let him hide. So v is going to be equal to the answer between a negative 15 divided by a positive 3. So I have a negative 15 divided by a positive 3. My answer will be a negative number. 15 divided by 3 is 5. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. If you weren't able to keep up with me, stop, rewind, play it again, or just go ahead and push pause. Make sure you have everything copied down and written down in your notes. And then we will move on to the last example. Okay, so hopefully you guys got all that copied down. I'm going to go ahead and hide half of this, and I want you guys to use a note card, index card, your ID, whatever you have to hide half of it, because I know, like, looking at it like this, it looks overwhelming. So we're just going to attack half of it at a time. Okay, so let's go ahead and start by adding our vertical line down here. If you use your index card, you should have a nicer line than mine over here. All right, so I'm going to look at this negative 7v out here, and I notice that it's not attached to anything that has parentheses. It is separated by this plus sign, which means that I'm not even going to touch that right now. But here, for this problem here, this tells me that I need to do 2 times negative 2, and then I'm going to do 2 times positive 4v, and I'm going to multiply that out. So I'm going to go ahead and bring down my negative 7v, and then multiply this out. So positive times a negative, and if we're doing our little triangle here, a positive times a negative is going to give me a negative. So I'm going to be minus 2 times 2 is 4. And then a positive times a positive means it's positive. 2 times 4 is 8. And then my v tags along, and I'm going to put my little equal sign here. And I'm going to keep working on this side. Okay, so I have a negative 7v and a positive 8v. And these guys are like terms. Remember like terms? We just did like terms. We're going to do more like terms. I have a negative 7v, and I'm circling that with that minus sign because that tells me what the value is. Then I'm going to circle this positive 8v. Not going to circle this because it's not, doesn't have a v attached to it, so it's not like these terms. It's not a twin. So minus 7 plus 8, in my head I know what it is, but in case you don't, I'm going to go ahead and do column method over here. Minus 7, positive 8, 7 is smaller. We're going to subtract it from 8. It's going to give me a 1. It's on the positive side. I know that combining these guys is going to give me 1v. Since it's Juan and he gets low, he gets shy, I'm just going to bring down that v. And then I'm going to bring down what I have left, which is our minus 4. So I have simplified this side quite a bit. Now I'm going to go ahead and expose this other side. And here I don't have any outliers. There's no additional terms that I'm not changing. I do have these parentheses. So I still have to do distributive property to multiply these guys. I have a positive 3 times a v, which is going to give me 3v. Then I have a positive 3 and a positive 4, which is going to give me positive 12. Okay, nothing else to add. These are not like terms. So I'm going to go ahead and this v, just bring them down to this next equation over here. 3v plus 12. So now I have to move things around. This 3 is bigger than my 1v, so I'm going to subtract 1v. I'm going to subtract 1v. And that's going to give me negative 4 is equal to 3 minus 1 is 2, v plus 12. I'm going to go ahead and subtract 12 here from both sides because it's the inverse operation, right? The opposite of 12 is a negative 12. This is going to be 0. I have two negatives, so I'm going to add them together. I would put 4 and 12 here and just add them together. They'd end up being negative. 4 plus 12 is negative 16. Let's bring down my thing a little bit more. And then I'm going to bring down what I have left on this side, which is my 2v. Now, typically when you see an answer, your variable's on the left-hand side. Now, I don't want you to worry about that until your last step, because if we can solve it by not moving things around and messing things up, let's just keep it simple. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to divide both sides by this coefficient of v. Remember, it's the inverse operation of multiplication is division. So I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by a positive 2. This becomes 1. Remember, a negative divided by a positive is going to give me a negative solution. So I know my answer is going to be negative. 16 divided by 2 is 8. And that's going to be v. If I want to now, I can say v is equal to negative 8 and box my answer. Okay, pretty simple, straightforward. Any questions, make sure you write them down in your notes, and you can ask me the next time you see me. Remember, I'm there at 6:30. Come see me if you have any questions. That's it. Push pause, copy this down. When you're done copying, you may push play or just end the video. Have a good night.